LWO1 WeatherNet. Liftoff conditions looking pretty good.
ESTS is ready for launch.
Ignition. Liftoff.
Falcon 9 has cleared the tower.
Ten, 9, 8,
Side booster ignition.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
T-minus 15 seconds. T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ignition and liftoff of Falcon 9. Go Falcon, go Intelsat G-33 and 34. Falcon 9, ditching down range. Intelsat G-33 and 34 satellites to orbit. Now, during ascent, we have begun tilting the engine. That's technically called gimbaling, and we've begun what's called a gravity turn. So we're beginning to move the rocket horizontally. We're still going up, but we're also going horizontally out
Falcon
over
9
the Atlantic.
Supersonic.
Now, at this point, we're just a few seconds away for maximum dynamic pressure, max Q, right after we get supersonic.
Max Q.
With that, we are through the highest point of stresses as we're going up through the Earth's atmosphere. Now, going back to what I was saying about going horizontally, a rocket needs to go about 17,500 miles per hour to get into orbit. So our velocity is going to keep ticking up. You can see that on the left-hand side of your screen to take these satellites to their ultimate orbital destination. Coming up, we've got 3 events in quick succession. First of those will be MECO, that's main engine cutoff. This is where we shut down all 9 of the Merlin 1D engines on the first stage. Following that, we'll have stage separation. The first and second stages will separate. And then we'll have second engine start number 1, SES1. That's where we'll ignite the Merlin vacuum engine on the second stage. So again, 3 events happening back-to-back. MECO, stage separation, SES1. Those will happen about 20 seconds from now. Great shots from the ground. You can see as the atmosphere is getting less dense, the plume expanding behind the rocket.
MECO. Stage separation confirmed. And back ignition.
There we go, those 3 events back to back. So with that, the first stage will start making its way back to planet Earth for recovery. Our second stage has a pretty long burn to go. Next major milestone here will be coming up at about T plus 3.5 minutes. That'll be fairing deployment. Let's see if we'll also get to see fairings. Yep,
fairing
you can see them.
Confirmed.
Left-hand side of your screen, those 2 white blobs coming off of the second stage are fairings. These fairings have flown 5 times each. We will be attempting to retrieve them today and use them on a future mission.
Both stages continue on nominal trajectories.
We're about T plus
Acquisition
4
signal
minutes
Bermuda.
into today's mission. Had a successful liftoff just 4 minutes ago. We're in the first of 2 planned Merlin vacuum burns for satellite deployment. Left-hand side of your screen is Falcon 9's first stage. We've got a view looking down towards the engines. You can see that the grid fins have deployed in preparation for atmospheric re-entry. On the right-hand side of your screen, a great shot of the Merlin vacuum engine glowing brightly with planet Earth in the background and some sunlight behind. The second stage on the right-hand side of your screen is carrying the Intelsat G-33 and 34 satellites to orbit. Next major milestone is just under 2 minutes from now. That'll be the first stage's entry burn. For that, we'll ignite 3 of the Merlin 1D engines, starting with the center engine, and then 2 of the radial engines. And that... Now, as I was saying, entry burn coming up for the first stage, left-hand side of your screen. That burn helps slow down the first stage for recovery as we start hitting the thicker parts of the Earth's atmosphere. And during that entry burn, we're decelerating, firing the Merlin engines, but the plume of the rocket is coming back on the vehicle, and so that ends up leaving that nice soot deposit that we see on the surface of Falcon 9s when we get them back on recovery. You're seeing some white gas bursts on the left-hand side of your screen. That's from the attitude control system. We carry nitrogen gas on the first stage. Since you don't have an atmosphere to push off of in space, we have to produce some thrust to reorient the vehicle, and that comes from those nitrogen gas thrusters. Second stage burn continuing to look nominal.
Stage 1 FTS has saved.
Stage 1 entry burn startup.
So again, 3 Merlin 1D engines igniting here, plume coming back on the vehicle, slowing us down. This burn just about 20 seconds long.
Entry burn shutdown.
And successful shutdown of the entry burn. So with that, the first stage is going to do a little bit of reorienting, make sure its heat shield is pointed down, and as we start getting into the thicker parts of the Earth's atmosphere, those grid fins start to become much more effective. And the whole reason for doing this is because we want to reuse this booster. Reusability is the key to lowering the cost of spaceflight. That enables us to make more investments in critical scientific research. And as I mentioned earlier, the first stage that's supporting today's mission is making this burn for the 14th time, having done it for GPS-3 Space Vehicle 3, Turksat 5A, Transporter 2, and 10 Starlink missions.
Stage 2 terminal guidance.
So with that call out for Stage 2 terminal guidance, we're coming up on second engine cutoff, or SECO, number 1.
Stage 1 is transonic. Stage 1 landing burn.
Landing burn started. You just heard the call out there for second engine cutoff on the second stage.
Stage 1 landing leg deployed. Stage 1 landing is confirmed.
Awesome. Successful
Stage 2
landing
nominal orbit insertion.
on our drone ship about
Expecting loss of signal Cape.
600 kilometers off the coast of Florida. You also heard in there the second engine cutoff on our second stage. So just handling them in order here. 146th recovery for an orbital class rocket, including first stage landings for Falcon 9 and Falcon Heavy. Second stage completed its burn. It's in the nominal orbit, but the mission isn't over just yet. The second stage is going to embark on its first coast phase. Following that coast phase, we are going to light the Merlin vacuum engine for a second time. That'll happen about 26 minutes into the mission. So we're going to see you back here in about 17 minutes. In the meantime, enjoy the space tunes, enjoy this awesome view of Falcon 9 and the space jellyfish.
have lost the signal, Bermuda.
Welcome back to the webcast of the Falcon 9 mission carrying the Galaxy 33 and 34 satellites for our customer Intelsat. Now, if you're just joining us, we've had a nominal mission so far. Falcon 9 launched on time at 7:05 p.m. Eastern from Space Launch Complex 40 in Florida. We successfully recovered the first stage on our drone ship, marking its 14th landing. And while that was happening, the second stage completed its first burn, taking the Intelsat Galaxy 33 and 34 payloads into an initial parking orbit. Now we're about 15 seconds away from a second ignition of the Merlin vacuum engine, which will carry the second stage and those Intelsat Galaxy 33 and 34 satellites into the orbit needed for payload deploy. And over the coast fades,
MVAC startup.
There's the call out there for MVAC startup. This burn will last about 45 seconds. And just before this, we had been chilling in the Merlin vacuum turbo pumps with liquid oxygen in preparation for the full flow. So this burn dramatically increasing the speed of the second stage, helping us to raise the apogee, or the highest point of the orbit, for payload deploy.
Nominal deploy orbit.
So with that call out there, we know a couple of things. Merlin vacuum shutdown occurred, and the call out there from operators showing that we are in the payload deploy orbit. Now, the Intelsat Galaxy 33 and 34 satellites are still attached to Falcon 9's second stage at the top of the vehicle. Their deployments will begin in about 5 minutes. First will be the Galaxy 33 satellite, followed by Galaxy 34 about 5 minutes after that. So while we wait, we're going to go back to a coast phase. Please sit back, enjoy the views and our space jams. Welcome to the webcast for the Intelsat Galaxy 33 and 34 mission. We had an on-time liftoff at 7:05 p.m. Eastern Time, followed by successful ascent, stage separation, a first stage landing, and 2 second stage engine burns. Now, this mission has launched the first 2 of 7 satellites that will replace and refresh a large part of the Intelsat North America Galaxy fleet. For Intelsat, this is a huge milestone for a project that started more than 3 years ago. Intelsat has 7 C-band satellites that are contracted to replace the existing North America media satellites. 6 of those 7 satellites are slated to be launched before the end of this year. Now, we're coming up just a few seconds away from payload deployment of the first of those 2 satellites on board today's mission, the Galaxy 33 satellite.
Galaxy 33 deploy confirmed.
And you can see it just behind the Galaxy 34 satellite, gently floating off to perform the rest of its mission. Now, Galaxy 34 is still attached to Falcon 9's second stage. Its deployment will take place in about 5 minutes from now, so we're going to take another short coast phase, and we'll see you back in a few for Galaxy 34 deploy. Hey again, we are nearing the end of our mission for today for our customer Intelsat. Now, about 5 minutes ago, we deployed the Galaxy 33 satellite, and now we're awaiting deployment of the second and final payload on today's mission. That's Galaxy 34 that you can see on your screen. Payload deployment coming up about the next 10 or 15 seconds.
Galaxy 34 deploy confirmed.
And Galaxy 34 going off to join the constellation and its partner satellite Galaxy 33. All of us here at SpaceX want to give a big thank you to our customer Intelsat for entrusting us with today's mission. We also want to give a shout out to the Range and the Federal Aviation Administration for supporting today's mission. It's been a really exciting few days here at SpaceX. Tonight's launch concludes our 184th overall mission to date, our 46th launch this year, and our 3rd launch just this week, including the launch of the Crew 5 astronauts to the International Space Stations. So, thank you to all of our viewers for tuning in and for your continued support. We hope you have a wonderful night and weekend.